So let's talk about or expand our discussion of ACEs. We know that, let's expand our discussion of ACEs. We know that ACEs are related to behavioral outcomes, mental health outcomes, physical health problems. And as Nadine Burke-Harris says, the body of research sparked by the ACE study makes it clear that adverse childhood experiences in and of themselves are a risk factor for many of the most common and serious diseases in the US and worldwide, regardless of income or race or access to care. I think this says several different important things. One is just knowing ACEs tells us something about whether this person is at risk. And second, that this is an equal opportunity problem. This is not just a poor people problem or Black and brown people problem. This is all of us. So this is Felitti et al.'s research, which was slow in taking off, but partly it was slow in taking off because people didn't understand. And so what I want you to do is pay attention to some of the places where we're seeing problems. So in terms of people who report being depressed for at least 2 weeks in the course of a year, we're seeing odds ratios of 4.6 to 1. Ever attempting suicide, we're talking 12 to 1. Really high. If we're talking in terms of considering oneself an alcoholic, 7.4 to 1. Ever using illicit drugs, 4.7 to 1. Ever injected drugs, 10 to 1. Had 50 or more intercourse partners, 3 to 1. Ever had a sexually transmitted disease, 2.5 to 1. What we're seeing here is a significant difference in terms of problems with, mental health, physical health, just that we're able to identify knowing an ACE score. As I said before, this sample, Felitti et al.'s sample, was 70% Caucasian, 70% college educated. This is not just a poor people problem. This is some data based on a nationally representative sample of teens in the US. We're seeing several different groups. This is our low risk group, our sexual assault group with these triangles, non-sexual assault, and then our high risk group. And each of these top 3 lines, each of these 3 groups, we're seeing that they are more likely, not to live with either birth parent, have symptoms of a mood or anxiety disorder, and have higher rates of disorder comorbidity. One of the things we know about comorbidity is that people with comorbid diagnoses tend to be doing more poorly, on average. So Felitti et al., which is the study we've been talking about today, describes a number of different things related to how this works. And what they say is the ACEs influence disrupted neurodevelopment, which causes some social, emotional, and cognitive impairment, causes some health risk behaviors, and as a result, disease, disability, social problems, and early death. So let's stop and think about the consequences of learning your ACE score. Jeanette says, I understand why I'm this way. I understand why my mother raised us the way she did. I understand I can break the cycle for my children. And I understand, again, knowing my ACE score, that I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. Sometimes knowledge is power, even knowledge of negative things. So probably many of you have not talked about the ACE in other classes. And we don't really talk about it a whole lot in the news or, in the media. And I think we should be thinking about why it isn't more widely discussed, when really this should be something every pediatrician is assessing, every psychologist should be assessing. So one problem is that people believe that the increased health risk is due to bad behavior, not exercising, not eating well. And obviously some part of it is, and some part isn't. Because we don't like talking about abuse or anything bad. Because Felitti et al. Talked about the what, but not the how. We just haven't really understood how ACEs work. Now, the ACE score has some limitations, and I think it's important that you know what those limitations are. A person with an ACE score of 1 may have experienced a one-time event or an intense, chronic, unrelenting exposure to a single type of abuse, and without having any difference in terms of the ACE score. It doesn't consider the impact of coping strategies, and we've talked about their importance. It doesn't consider the impact of family and community support. And the original ACE omitted things like exposure to war or bullying, things that probably should be considered. And frankly, the ACE was designed for research rather than screening purposes. So, there are some problems there as a result. I am going to stop here for now. And I'll see you in the next video when we're talking about how to assess ACEs.